Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Welcome to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching. We're in the offices of Hays Fire Chief Gary Brown as we talk about some issues with the Hays Fire Department. Also re-emphasize some of the things that your local Hays Fire Department does and is doing for the community and for the area. Gary, thanks for spending the time with us. Let's talk a little about the department in generalities, if we could, about, the staffing, for example.
Okay. The City of Hays Fire Department is predominantly a career-staffed fire department. We have 3 shifts of 7 firefighters. There's a captain, a lieutenant, and 5 firefighters on each shift. At least 5 firefighters are on duty every day at the Main Street Fire Station. That is enough firefighters for us to rescue someone trapped in a car crash or to put one hose line in service at a fire. We also have one firefighter out at the airport every day during the hours of air passenger service. And also, when we have a report of a building fire or something like that, we recall our off-duty people so that we have enough firefighters to sustain a fire attack, put a second and third hose line in service, those types of things, so that we can handle bigger emergencies than what the on-duty crew can do every day.
Gary, do you supplement the rural fire department in Ellis County or in the area to an extent? Is that one of the duties or one of the responsibilities?
Well, every fire department has mutual aid agreements with their neighbors. And our relationship with the rural fire department is that we would assist them if they need help, and they would assist us if we need help. But our service area predominantly is the city of Hays, within the city limits, and things outside the city limits are handled by the county's rural fire department. And there is a difference, a distinct difference. In the city, we have a public water system with hydrants, and our fire trucks are designed to operate on city streets using fire hydrants for water supply. And in the county, they don't have that, so their fire trucks are designed more for, so they can go off-road, and they carry large volumes of water with them so that they can operate in that rural environment without hydrants. So the two departments have slightly, the environment they operate in is different, so therefore they're equipped differently, but we would help each other back and forth if there was a need for assistance. And especially things like traffic crashes and hazardous materials accidents, something like that, we're pretty comparable in being able to help each other.
And what about vehicles, Gary? Talk a little about the fire department vehicles, because those are probably, as much as anything else, the most visible part of the fire department.
Sure. And it's also, other than the fire station itself, the most expensive, other than the people, the cost of the people, it's the most expensive part of the fire department, too, is maintaining the fleet. But we have 3 rescue pumpers. And when I say that, what we've done to try to be more effective in using the taxpayers' money is to combine resources. Obviously, with having 5 people on duty every day, that limits how many fire trucks we can staff. So instead of having a separate rescue truck to take to traffic crashes and then a different fire truck to take to building fires, we've combined those missions together into combination fire trucks. So we have 3 combination rescue pumpers, and we have 2 combination pumper ladder trucks, so that any one of them by themselves could start a fire attack or respond to a medical emergency and do the basics on a traffic crash rescue or a hazardous materials accident. But then the specialty things that the rescue pumper would carry would complement that. Or the extra long ladders. We have a number of big 2.5-story houses, multi-story buildings where having an aerial ladder and the longer ladders that are carried on a ladder truck is important. One of the 5 people we have on duty every day staff 2 of them staff a rescue pumper, and 2 of them staff one of the ladder trucks. The other 3 fire trucks get staffed by the off-duty people that come back when we page them back for an emergency. But by staffing the rescue pumper and the pumper ladder truck, we essentially have a complete toolbox so that we can get started on any emergency in the city with the right resources to do the work.
And I know that was one of your focuses early on, was to make sure that you had the adequate ladders to reach those taller structures now, whether it be a downtown building or any of the other structures from houses that have gone up in scale.
Yes. And we run the regional rescue team. In order to do that cost effectively, we have a large trailer, and we pull that with a pickup truck. And the pickup truck actually is it's a diesel-powered combination, diesel-powered pickup truck, where we carry a lot of the rescue gear in the pickup truck plus the trailer, and that avoids buying a more expensive, big, heavy rescue squad, like you see in big urban areas. So we've tried to be as effective as we can with the taxpayers' money, but still be able to carry the things that we need to carry.
One of the things that has been an improvement, an addition, if you will, to the fire and rescue effort is the airport fire station, which has actually been designed as a kind of a dual purpose, hasn't it, Gary?
Sure. The city has had discussions for some time about whether we should build another firehouse, and the city right now has a public fire protection classification rating of 3 out of a scale of 1 to 10. In the state of Kansas, there's only about 7 communities that have a better fire protection rating than the city of Hayes. So the city of Hayes is in very good shape. But there's been a discussion, and when the FAA approached us about building a new airport fire station, which was predominantly funded with FAA money, it was 95% funded, we asked if we could position that fire station up near the highway with the idea that in the future, when the city grows and the city commission determines we might need to staff that to improve the services in the city, that we could use that existing building not only to protect the airport but also to operate fire rescue services for that, for the city as well. So yes, we do have that. We have one firefighter who's assigned to the airport during the hours that Great Lakes Airlines is operating. That's an FAA requirement. The FAA requirement is that from the time a plane crashes at the airport until we have a fire truck on scene applying foam to that crash is 3 minutes. So we have a firefighter out there who staffs the airport crash truck. We actually have 2. We have a Class 3 crash truck, a smaller crash truck, which was purchased by the city in 1996 using FAA money, again 95% funded. And then in 2010, we've got the bigger crash truck, the Class 4 crash truck, which again was funded with federal money. And quite frankly, that was the smallest airport fire truck they would let us purchase to protect the airport. And when with that fire truck, we had to build a bigger fire station to put it in. So the majority of that's been funded by the FAA, and it's in response to FAA requirements. Now, the FAA requirements came about because of a crash at an airport very similar to Hayes, Quincy, Illinois, where a Great Lakes Airlines Beech 1900 crashed. And unfortunately, the people on board died because there wasn't the immediate response of the fire rescue service. So the FAA changed their requirements, and we adapted to those new requirements by staffing that airport fire station.
Back to just a moment, I want to reemphasize, if we could, the fire rating of 3 for the city of Hayes. That really is a number, but it translates, as far as a homeowner is concerned, to improvements in insurance coverage.
Well, generally, with people with homeowners insurance, the capital stock insurance companies view people who own their own homes are going to take care of them better, and they actually provide a fairly uniform fire and homeowners rate for anybody with a recognized fire service. So Class 8 or above, that pretty much stays the same. Where that Class 3 comes about, and which is very important for a city like Hayes, is commercial fire insurance rates for business properties and for rental properties, because rental properties don't get homeowners insurance, so those people that own that property. But there's about 1,800 jurisdictions in the state of Kansas that are rated as by the Insurance Services Office for Public Fire Protection Classification. and only 7 of them have a rating better than the city of Hayes.
Let's talk a little bit about something that is another service of the fire department, the Hayes Fire Department, as we visit with Chief Gary Brown, and that's something called a rapid entry system. What's that about, Gary?
Well, in the last 30 years or so, commercial buildings, through either fire code requirements or insurance requirements or just prudence on the part of the owners, have installed a lot more automatic fire alarm systems. And it creates a dilemma. The fire alarm system is intended to call the fire department when the fire is very small. So the fire department gets the call. In a few minutes, the fire department is there. There's nothing to see. The building is locked up. The fire alarm is sounded. But there's no smoke, there's no fire, there's nothing. So what do? The dilemma for the firefighters is, do we force this door and force our way in and find out that it was a malfunction, or do we stand around and do nothing and wait, and the fire gets bigger and does a lot of damage, which is exactly the opposite of why the person purchased the fire alarm system and had it installed in the first place. So what the fire code did to respond to that is require a rapid entry system so that the fire department can get into that building without doing damage and assess if there's actually a fire inside. And then obviously through the alarm company, a key holder responds, or a person who's responsible for that building responds, and we tell them what happened, and they, so we can get inside very quickly, address a problem if one exists, protect their property. They get there, we turn the building back over to them, and everybody's, everything works right. So we have those on about 80 buildings in our city that have, the criteria we use is they have to have a fire alarm system that's monitored by an alarm company that's going to call the fire department. That creates the dilemma for us, break in or stand around and wait until something bad happens. We have now a number of homes that people have installed fire alarms in, or they have a carbon monoxide alarm, or they have a medical alarm. Just think of, Mrs. Smith falls down her stairs. She's broken her hip or broken her leg. She pushes her little medical alarm pendant. The house is locked up. Fire and EMS show up at the door. There's nobody there. They can't hear her cries for help out of the basement. They walk around. Do they break in, and find out it was an accident? Do they walk away and leave Mrs. Smith at the bottom of her stairs helpless? So we'd like to extend that rapid entry system to people who have monitored home alarms, fire, carbon monoxide, burglar alarms, so that we can do the same process to get inside, find out if somebody needs help, find out if there's a fire there. If not, we can lock the place up and we're out of there with no damage. We can't very well leave and have Mrs. Smith lying at the foot of her basement stairs needing help and we just walk away. That's pretty bad. So we provide this as an option. It's not required by the law. It's an option. But if homeowners have these types of alarms, we would encourage them to, number one, have a good system of key holders so that the alarm company calls people who might have a key. But then again, you stand around for a half an hour waiting for a key holder to come from, someplace. Or they can install this rapid entry system and let us get in there right away, check things. The rapid entry system does cost in the neighborhood of $150 or so to have it installed. But and it's something they buy through the fire department. In other words, we have to authorize the sale of it to this person for a purpose that's legitimate. It's just not something willy-nilly. And obviously it has to be uniform to our access. So, it can't be anybody's rapid entry system. It has to be the one that we use. So we would help people through that process. But if anybody out there of your viewers has a monitored home, fire, smoke, or medical alarm, or your aged parents have the home alarm and you're worried about something happening to your mother or who's going to be home alone and might be locked in her house, give us a call and we'll explain how this thing works and people can make a decision if they want it or not.
And lastly, Gary, if you would, you had talked earlier about, with the morning show with Boomer and Mike, about the new sirens, the emergency sirens, and how they are now in place and installed and are in use. Go over that a little bit for us, would you? It's kind of a review.
Sure. About 4 years ago, we really started looking at the city's fleet of outdoor warning sirens, and we had 9 sirens. And the sirens were of mixed age. I think most of them were bought by the city many years ago, and they were used when they were purchased, used equipment. But as the city had grown to the east and grown to the west, there were neighborhoods that just weren't covered by these outdoor warning sirens. So we would either have to add to that existing fleet, and we sat down and we said, there's probably a better thing we can do here. And we can get modern equipment that has battery backup power that monitors itself through a computer process. In other words, every day the siren fleet, there's a computer controller, and it calls out to all the sirens and says, "How are you?" And the siren says, "All my stuff is working okay." I get an email on my BlackBerry saying if there's power outage, if somebody opens the control box, if the siren functions properly, if the siren fails, that it's totally monitored so that we can detect a problem. And obviously the battery backup, it'll allow the siren to be blown 5 times to warn people if the AC power fails. And they're bigger, they're more powerful sirens. So we decided what we would do is replace that mixed fleet of old equipment of different capabilities with a new fleet, and we replaced nine sirens that didn't cover the whole city with 6 sirens that now cover the entire city. With these modern features that make them much more reliable. But I'd like to stress to all your viewers, too, that an outdoor warning siren is for people outdoors. Back in the 1950s, when you had to have your windows open, because you didn't have air conditioning, and you had your little tabletop radio or your 12-inch TV, the sirens could penetrate into, and homes weren't insulated like they are. Sirens could penetrate, but today, really, if you're in your home or if you're in your vehicle, you really need to rely on the commercial broadcast, National Weather Service alert, the weather alerts. You can get a National Weather Service alert radio that just sits there quietly monitoring signals until they put out a tornado warning, and then it sounds in your house at 2 o'clock in the morning to wake you up and tell you there's a tornado. The outdoor warning sirens are really for the people that are outside playing ball, that are riding their bike, they're whatever they might be doing outside. That's the purpose of these sirens. They're not to alert people inside their homes. That's not how the city would place them or has placed them for that purpose.
Gary, I'm pretty impressed that you remember the tabletop radios. I think that's pretty impressive on your part. He's Fire Chief Gary Brown joining us today, and thanks to our producer, Jeff Durall. This is Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Thanks for watching.